I think it would be proper for you to curtsy.
Curtsy?
The braids, the dance, and the secret that survived 60 years. That's the Lisa Loring you remember. Here's the one nobody mentions.
Almost, let's see, 75 days almost.
Wow. What she earned for that dance will stop you cold. At 15, she made a desperate choice. One husband hit a shocking double life. How it ended in 2023? Nobody saw it coming. It starts in a crowded room, 1964.
Why, Wednesday? I didn't expect you until the morning.
Nobody home in the neighborhood?
This isn't just a retrospective on a forgotten child star. It's a window into a decades-long pattern. How Hollywood uses up the innocent, pockets the millions, and leaves a shattered family behind.
I had lots of fun.
Oh, darling. Oh, what's...
75 girls and one question. The cattle call that changed everything, and the mother already selling her daughter's future. To understand the woman, you have to start with the machine she was born into. It's the early 1960s, and Hollywood runs on a quiet, relentless engine. Ambitious parents and the children they push in front of the cameras. Lisa was one of those children, except she didn't choose any of it. She was born in 1958 on Kwajalein, a speck of an island in the Marshall Islands, to two parents serving in the Navy. That marriage collapsed early.
From 10 years old, stopped auditioning, and I didn't start getting back into acting till I was 19.
Her mother carried her to Hawaii, then to Los Angeles, chasing an acting career of her own. And here's where the pattern starts. Her mother didn't just bring a toddler along to auditions, she put her to work. Lisa Loring was modeling professionally at the age of 3. 3 years old, hitting marks, holding still, performing for adults. By 6, she'd already booked a small speaking role on the hit medical drama Dr. Kildare, playing a sharp little girl with grown-up lines. A stage mother in the classic intense mold, she saw a child as a career, and it would shape everything that came after.
Why, you perked up my African strangler. Come here, darling.
Then came the audition that made her famous. Picture it through the eyes of a 6-year-old. A massive open casting call, what the industry coldly call the cattle call. More than 75 little girls crammed into one room, all dressed up, all hoping, all being measured against each other like livestock. The cuts came fast and clinical. First they asked your age. Then they stood you up and checked your height. Too tall? Go home. Just like that. Then they made you speak, listening for any trace of baby talk, and sent more girls crying back to their mothers.
That's a closet, I'm sorry.
By the next day, only about 12 remained. The test nobody could have predicted. They didn't ask the kids to read, they asked them to repeat. Most froze. Lisa didn't. Now the real test. Read the lines. But most of these children, Lisa included, couldn't read yet. So the producers ran a clever trick. They didn't ask the kids to read, they asked them to repeat. Say this line in this exact way. Lurch, do you want to go to the playground? Now say it excited. Most of the kids froze. Couldn't manage it, even after a few tries. Lisa nailed it. First try. Down to 3 finalists.
He had it made especially for me.
The Black Widow Spider Village.
Isn't that lovely?
Just like a society of small humans.
Yeah, they do nothing but fight.
They sewed full costumes for all 3 and ran real screen tests on film, studying how each girl played against the adult actors. And the thing that finally won it was almost accidental. When they stood Lisa beside Carolyn Jones, the woman cast as Morticia, she didn't just act the part, she looked like she could be Morticia's daughter. That sealed it. A 6-year-old who beat 75 other children walked out of that room as Wednesday Addams. She had beaten impossible odds. The cameras were about to roll on the roll of a lifetime.
I can say that, and I worked my butt off at every kind of job, cocktailing till 2 in the morning, sales of all kinds, in between my acting.
But while the lights came up on the set, a completely separate battle was already brewing behind the closed doors of her home. One that would stay hidden from the public for years, and it would nearly destroy her. The dance that never died. How a first grader's deadpan became a billion-view phenomenon 60 years later. On September 18th, 1964, the Addams Family premiered, and Lisa became one of the most recognizable children in America almost overnight.
That doll doesn't have a head.
It's Marie Antoinette. Grandmama told us about the French Revolution, and Paxley chopped off her head.
And she was good. Wednesday was morbid and adorable all at once. A gloomy little girl with a pet black widow spider named Homer, a lizard called Lucifer, and a headless doll she carried like a best friend. On paper, that character should have been unsettling. In Lisa's hands, you wanted to hug her. Here's what's easy to miss. That was a masterclass in restraint from a 6-year-old. The flat little voice, the total seriousness, delivering something macabre like she was reading a grocery list.
And the person who I was working for decided to do an X-rated film, because X-rated films are commodities in video stores, as you probably well know.
Directors spend entire careers trying to coach that kind of deadpan out of grown adults, and a first grader did it on instinct. The viral moment that proved her legacy. Jenna Ortega pointed back down the line, and the name she landed on was Lisa Loring. And we don't have to wait 60 years to prove the point. Look at what happened in 2022. When Netflix released its global smash Wednesday starring Jenna Ortega, the entire planet lost its mind over a single scene. Ortega's strange, jerky, hypnotic dance.
I want names.
I don't know who they were. Honest. It happened so fast.
Pugsley, emotion equals weakness. Pull yourself together.
It went viral on a scale the 1964 cast could never have imagined. And when people asked Ortega where it came from, she pointed straight back down the line. One of the names she credited as her inspiration was Lisa Loring. 60 years apart, same character, same deadpan electricity. One little girl in 1964 set a template that a billion-view streaming hit was still chasing in 2022. She was, in that moment of her life, on top of the world.
I'll never live up to your legacy here. So I try. I won the Poe Cup, you claimed it 4 times. I joined the fencing team, you captained it.
And the floor was about to drop straight out from under her. And then she was gone and married at 15. The law named after a broken child star, and why it was the only thing standing between Lisa and ruin. The Addams Family ran 2 seasons and 64 episodes. Lisa adored it. The cast treated her like their own. And then in 1966, it was canceled. What happened next is something the industry has done to child stars for 100 years. Call it the cruel math of Hollywood.
Morticia, time has stood still for you, Angelito mio. You look even lovelier than the day I first laid eyes on you.
A child actor is only valuable while they stay frozen in the exact shape audiences fell in love with. The second they grow, the second the face changes, the cute fades, the teeth come in crooked, they're disposable. Producers casting a kid almost always wanted a fresh face to launch a new show, not a recognizable little girl welded to a role America already knew. So Lisa's auditions slowed, then stopped. By 8 years old, she had quietly vanished from television. The child star whose stolen fortune changed everything. A boy named Jackie Coogan earned millions. His parents spent it. What happened next rewrote the law.
You're standing right in my way.
It's the only safe place.
Step aside.
And here is where her story collides with one of the darkest true stories in Hollywood history. Because the only thing that saved Lisa from total ruin was a law born from another child star's nightmare. Rewind to the 1920s. A boy named Jackie Coogan was the biggest child star on earth. Charlie Chaplin's co-star in The Kid, a household name, a fortune maker. He earned the equivalent of tens of millions of dollars before he was grown. And when he turned 21 and reached for that fortune, it was gone.
You wouldn't even let me fix that leak in the roof. And my finger fitted perfectly.
His mother and his stepfather had spent nearly all of it, and under the law at the time, that was completely legal. A child's earnings belonged to the parents, full stop. Coogan sued. The scandal was so public, so infuriating, that in 1939, California passed a brand new law, forcing studios to lock away a portion of any child performer's earnings in a protected trust the parents couldn't touch. To this day, it's called the Coogan Law. The man in white face paint sitting across the room.
It's a very strange and mysterious place. You'd be surprised at all the things you don't know.
The law that saved Lisa was named after the man playing Uncle Fester on the very same set. Now here's the part that should give you chills. Decades later, when Lisa Loring's earnings from the Addams Family were quietly protected, kept safe even from her own troubled mother, they were protected by that exact law, the Coogan Law, named after Jackie Coogan. And Jackie Coogan was standing right there on set with her, because by 1964, broke and middle-aged, Coogan had taken a new job to rebuild his life. He played Uncle Fester on the Addams Family.
The lady didn't know as much. She didn't know as much about me as she learned about me.
And I tried to tell my father, oh, he only did a few a long time ago. My father and I haven't spoken for 2.5 years.
But we will.
The bald man in the heavy coat, the lovable ghoul lighting bulbs in his mouth, was the very child star whose stolen fortune had forced America to protect kids like Lisa. The law that saved her was sitting across the room from her in white face paint. It wasn't a fortune. She never saw a dime of residuals from the endless reruns, but that small protected cushion is the only reason a teenage girl was about to survive what came next. A marriage license as an escape hatch. At 15, the only door out of her mother's house was the one nobody should have had to open.
The third. And our tycoon is Rockland Cartwright II, obviously father and son.
Because by the time Lisa was a teenager, her mother's drinking had spiraled completely out of control. And at 15, this child made a decision that tells you exactly how desperate things had become. She used a marriage license as an escape hatch, the only legal way to flee her mother's home. But freedom came at a brutal price. By 17, she'd buried that mother, was raising a baby alone, and the applause was long gone. She was completely on her own. Yet Hollywood wasn't finished with Lisa Loring.
His dear uncle?
He's going to buy something. He's upstairs getting the money out of his piggy bank now.
Oh?
In the mid-1980s, a single phone call would drag her right back into the industry. But this time, she wouldn't be standing in front of the camera. A brief return and the makeup chair. The girl who sold the network show was now holding someone else's brush. And the most dangerous man in her life was waiting on set. Let's slow down and sit in the wreckage of those teenage years, because they matter. At 15, Lisa married her childhood sweetheart, not out of romance, but as the one door out of her mother's custody.
It was what they call a cattle call, but back then it was like 75 girls instead of 5,000, you know. And
a year later, she had a daughter, Vanessa. Then her mother died from the complications of the alcoholism Lisa had lived beside her entire life. Then the young marriage collapsed. A teenage single mother, grieving, alone, with no spotlight left to cushion any of it. There was one flicker of light. In 1977, the original Addams Family cast reunited for a TV movie, and they wanted Lisa back as Wednesday, grown now, with little Addams children of her own in the story. For a moment, the girl who vanished got to come home to the role that made her. Survival mode, behind the camera. She fought for a foothold, and when the work dried up entirely, she did something quietly humbling. She fought for a foothold all through the early 80s, a second marriage, a second daughter, and a recurring role on the soap opera As the World Turns.
I didn't know how to read yet. I hadn't been to first grade. So he wasn't prepared to see children that young. He didn't know. But
underneath the daytime television glamour, the tide was pulling her under. When the acting work completely dried up, Lisa didn't quit. She did something quietly humbling. She went to work behind the camera as a makeup artist. Sit with that image for a second. The little girl whose face once sold a hit network show was now the woman holding the brush, powdering down somebody else's face under the lights, cleaning up after the stars. No ego, just survival.
Yeah, he died very young.
Yeah, all those giant guys die young.
Yeah.
And it was in that makeup chair, on one specific film set, that she met the man who would become the most talked about, most dangerous chapter of her entire life. The husband with two lives, the secret career, the national television ambush, and a darkness the cameras never fully captured. His name was Jerry Butler, charismatic, funny, an actor.
Hey, party, he recognized me like that. I had to go to show off, you know, he's condemning me and he's watching.
Exactly.
Except Jerry Butler wasn't his real name. He was born Paul Cederman in Brooklyn, and his resume was unlike anyone she'd ever met. He'd done off-Broadway. He'd chased mainstream movies. He'd even, years before, tied for first place in the 1980 Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest down in Coney Island, where his father managed the famous stand. But the film set where he met Lisa wasn't mainstream. By the late 1980s, Jerry Butler was one of the most prolific adult film stars in the country. They fell for each other anyway and married in 1987. The promise he couldn't keep. He swore he'd walk away from that world. He didn't. And she was about to find out on national television.
I don't think I would have noticed that at that age.
Really?
No.
I thought you were kind of wild. You had that wild look in there.
And this is where it would be easy to be cruel, and I won't be, because what Lisa lived through here was genuinely, deeply painful. She wanted an ordinary marriage. She wanted him to walk away from that world, and he promised he would. He didn't. He kept working in secret, behind her back, and later confessed on national television that he was addicted to the lifestyle, ashamed of what it was doing to the woman he'd married. Now picture the media landscape they fell into. This was the gritty, blinding peak of late 80s daytime television. Geraldo, Sally Jesse Raphael, shows that turned private agony into public sport.
Wednesday, not Tuesday, but Thursday.
Right here. Wednesday.
And there sat Lisa. Twice, the couple went on those programs to claw through their marriage on camera. The former American sweetheart, the deadpan darling from 1964, now under the hot studio lights while a live audience shouted opinions at the ruins of her private life. Lonelier than famous. The whole country was watching. Not one person in that studio was actually with her. And privately, it was even darker than the cameras knew.
Why? The neighbors complained about Aristotle getting loose.
The marriage dissolved into a public spectacle. Trapped inside that media circus, Lisa turned to a severe substance problem just to numb the pain, and it took hold of her hard. Then, in the early 90s, came a sudden and devastating loss, a tragedy she walked straight into. And for a woman already at the very edge, that grief was nearly the thing that ended her story for good. The comeback nobody saw. Out of the wreckage, back to the fans, and the rock star who wore her childhood name on a stage. She survived it.
Oh, this is terrible. She's not my type at all.
That is the whole turning point of this story, and it deserves to land as the hard-won victory it was. The marriage to Jerry Butler ended in 1992. He went on with his own troubled life and died years later in 2018. Lisa somehow climbed out of the pit, out of the addiction, out of the grief, out of the wreckage of a very public collapse. And then she did something almost radical. She got quiet. Through the rest of the 90s, she stepped out of the spotlight entirely, worked ordinary jobs, and raised her daughters.
And he thought I was so adorable. He told me this later when I was, an adult. He said,
after everything, ordinary must have felt like a kind of grace. Wednesday 13 and the depth of a legacy. A rock star built his entire identity around a 6-year-old's character. That isn't a coincidence. That's proof. Then, slowly, the fans found her again. In the early 2000s, she began appearing at horror conventions and pop culture expos around the country, and by every account, she loved it. After years of running from Wednesday, or being defined by the chaos that surrounded her, she finally got to simply sit and be adored for the gift she'd given the world as a 6-year-old.
Not bad, really. You only lost one vote.
I'm sure there's been some fraud.
And the depth of that love stunned even her. At one of those events, she met rock star Wednesday 13. He had literally built his entire heavy metal stage identity around her character, touring with the likes of Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper while wearing her childhood name like a badge of honor. That wasn't a fluke. That was a legacy. She had made her peace with Wednesday, and the world, it turned out, had never let her go. Goodbye, Wednesday. The last chapter, the daughters who stayed, and the light that never really went out.
Poor thing's getting rings under his tentacles. And by African strangler, too.
In late January of 2023, just months after that Netflix series put Wednesday Addams back at the center of the entire planet, with its young star publicly thanking her, Lisa Loring suffered a massive stroke. Her health had been fragile, and this was more than her body could carry. She was placed on life support. After a few days with no way back, her family made the hardest decision a family ever makes.
What were you and Pugsley up to when you weren't shooting?
Pugsley was gross.
She passed on January 28th, 2023 at 64, and she did not go alone. Both of her daughters were right there, holding her hands. The last of the family. One by one, the original cast had gone. Now the circle quietly closed. A friend said it about as perfectly as anyone could, that Lisa was woven permanently into the fabric of pop culture and into the hearts of everyone who loved her as Wednesday Addams. And with her passing, something quietly historic closed.
Show off.
Fester.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, you know I don't like petty jealousies.
The entire original Addams family, Morticia, Pugsley, Lurch, and Uncle Fester, that very same Jackie Coogan, were all gone now. As of the day she died, only one of the grown-up leads was still living, John Astin, Gomez himself, in his 90s. What really happened to the girl in the braids? She lived one of the wildest, hardest lives of any child star who ever existed, and she came out the other side loved. So here's the answer to the question we opened with. What really happened to the sweet little girl who taught a monster how to dance?
By Jove, I think they did. Wednesday.
She lived one of the wildest, hardest lives of any child star who ever existed. Used by the industry, discarded by it, married at 15, orphaned before 20, paraded through a media circus, dragged to the very bottom. And she clawed her way back up every single time. She went through more than almost anyone knew. And she came out the other side loved. So if that little 1964 dance has ever, even once, brought a smile to your face, leave a black heart in the comments right now. Not as a like, as a tribute. Let's fill that space below with thousands of them and show the world that the original Wednesday was never, ever forgotten. Because as long as we keep playing her clip, her light never really goes out.